Welcome back to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. It's your business to be aware of what's happening in the political front. And if you haven't noticed, we have, those of us who believe in liberty are getting killed daily, not only by those who are of the liberal persuasion, liberal Democrats, but frankly because of Republicans who simply do nothing but just simply sit there and complain over what's happening, but they don't have the intestinal fortitude to do anything about it. We're going to be talking to a candidate that my good friend Ted Cruz, who I think has probably been on my show more than any other show, at least in Texas, has described as an utterly fearless, principled conservative. When Ted Cruz says something like that, that catches my attention. Katrina Pierson, welcome to our program.
Oh, good morning, and thank you very much for having me.
You bet. You're running for Congress in a Dallas suburb?
Yes, Congressional District 32. It encompasses Dallas, Wiley, Richardson, Saxe, Rowlett, and Garland.
Wow, that's a great area that I would assume is a very conservative area.
It is extremely conservative, and after redistricting in 2010, we're actually more conservative than we used to be.
Yeah, very interesting. Tell us a little bit about your background. Give us a little bit of information about yourself.
Well, sure. I'm a single mom. I was born to a 14-year-old mother who chose life and, grew up under really extreme, difficult circumstances in the poverty system, welfare, you name it, we were on it. And, just made some very different decisions than those around me and worked my way through school. And it was very interesting to know that I had always been a conservative and just didn't realize it until I got into politics. I have 12 years of healthcare experience, which is one of the reasons why I decided to run for this office. I was an administrator for a level 1 trauma hospital running inpatient and outpatient practices, and I was the former director of corporate affairs for a privately held, yes, they still exist, a privately held $400 million company worldwide. And the government is just really, really breaking the backs of average Americans. And so we've really got to get engaged and do something to stop this.
Yeah, absolutely. No question about it. You're not, you haven't chose a rather weak challenger. Pete Sessions, of course, he's been around too long. He's been there now for well over a decade. He is, in my opinion, the quintessential go-along guy. This idea of leadership in Congress means cheerleader. We saw that this week with John Cornyn going ahead and voting for the raising the debt ceiling in the way that he did. Once again, throwing Ted Cruz under the bus. These establishment guys need to go. The biggest problem the Republican Party has is that they don't offer a viable alternative to the Democratic Party. And all they do, in my opinion, is they sit there almost like armchair quarterbacks. You know what? That's the job of the citizen who votes for these people. It's their job to get their hands dirty. And the vast majority seem really resistant. And I would include Pete Sessions into that.
Oh, you're absolutely right. Pete Sessions has been in office for almost 2 decades in a very conservative district, and he has not once authored or passed a single piece of conservative legislation. When Democrats have power, they use it and they push their agenda. When Republicans had power, they didn't use it, and when they pushed agenda, it was progressive issues, and they are go along to get along. And that's why the Republican Party is struggling. They call it a civil war, but that's not what's going on here. What's going on are Republicans being accountable and holding their elected officials accountable as well. And we have to do that to preserve our party, because to be frank with you, if we lose the Republican Party, we will lose the Republic.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Or it will be replaced by a truly viable party that believes in liberty. I don't know. I don't think practicably that's the libertarians, but I tell you this much, at least they believe something. Republican Party, I'm in disbelief of the vast majority of the Republican parties. It's such a small number. I'm in awe of how marginalized one of the most brilliant members of the Senate, Ted Cruz, is, and by the majority of the people in that body. And we need a lot more Cruzes in every level of government.
Democrats are married to government. Republicans are married to big business. Big business is now married to government. So they're all one big happy family. So people like Ted Cruz and myself are a threat to that power structure. And to those of us who want liberty and freedom and opportunity, will completely dismantle that power structure as it stands.
Yeah, that's an interesting statement. I'll be frank. I believe that I believe the Democrats are much more inclined to be corporatists than Republicans, in my opinion. Being for big
they're
business,
both equally engaged. So you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but the reality is that in 2008, Obama got 3 times as much money from the top 1% than the Senator McCain, and so and the reason why I said, as the reality is that the only ones that can afford Democratic liberal policy are the mega corporations. They're the only ones who can afford it. And they use that as a tool to beat up on small and medium-sized businesses all day long. My biggest problem with Republicans is they swear to defend the Constitution, and apparently they haven't read it. And they're just so complicit in their non-activity. How in the world has this guy, Barack Obama, not faced impeachment in a Republican-controlled U.S. House? I don't care what would happen in the U.S. Senate. I realize both houses are required. But to me, it's unconscionable that process hasn't taken place.
Well, it's doing your duty, and that's what's lacking on the congressional side of things. We did have a checks and balances system in place to sort of keep some of this under control. Now we have an administration who has decided to use a pen and a phone to create legislation, who has essentially allowed his departments and agencies to threaten and stalk American citizens with zero accountability. And you can turn on C-SPAN at any given moment and hear these, red meat committee hearings, which absolutely produce nothing for the American public. We have government essentially running ad hoc, and Republicans who either don't have the courage, they are afraid, or just capitulating to special interests instead of defending the Constitution.
So it's hard to raise money, and that's what you have to do in order to run for an office like yours. You've gotten incredible traction, though, nationwide. You're a very attractive, articulate, very bright candidate, clearly someone we need in Congress. How's the fundraising efforts going?
Fundraising is going great, considering most people don't understand that District 32 is the establishment Karl Rove District. Texas is the financial hub for national Republicans, and now we've raised up to $130,000 in a stronghold district where we were told we would never get traction anywhere. We have a phenomenal grassroots group, over 200 volunteers, 17 area coordinators, 75 block walkers, which really compensate for not being able to match the incumbent. And we're doing really well in the district. We have a lot of traction. We have momentum, and we feel really good about March 4th.
Yeah. And are you seeing unusual reactions, if you will, on the part of Pete Sessions fighting for a seat?
Oh, absolutely. He has spent more money in the last 2 weeks on his reelection than he has spent even in the last general election. He just spent another $300,000 on mail and ads. So we definitely know that he knows we're here, and I'm sure he's looking at the same numbers we're looking at, and he is worried, as he should be.
As well he should be, and I hope that he is looking for something else to do coming pretty soon, I'd love for him to be out of there in January. It'd be awesome to get someone like yourself in there. I'm really grateful that you're running. I'm really grateful that you're putting your money and your life and your beliefs where your mouth is. And so talk is cheap, and actually running is huge. And I really do hope and pray for your success.
Well, thank you. We're excited, and I actually live in the district. Pete moved to Florida in 2012, and the residents here don't appreciate that. So we're going to push hard, and we're going to fight hard for the people in District 32.
Interesting. So he doesn't have a home at all in that district? I bet
not in the district and not in the state.
He probably has a P.O. box, right?
Well, he used to have an apartment until pictures surfaced on the Internet, and they quickly cleaned that out. So nobody knows where Pete Sessions is claiming to live these days.
That would be a great commercial, by the way.
That would be a great commercial.
We're trying to find our congressman.
Paging Pete Sessions.
Yeah, we're trying to find a congressman. You go all over the district, go to P.O. boxes. Maybe he's at this P.O. box. Anyone in there? And you just go around. Oh, our congressman is in Florida.
Exactly.
I think you ought to run that commercial. You know what? You want to know what's funny? That's how Mitch McConnell got elected to the U.S. Senate. He ran a commercial just like that. Where is my opponent? His opponent didn't live in Kentucky. That's how Mitch McConnell got in the U.S. Senate.
I didn't know that.
And in the commercials, they looked everywhere for his opponent. They ended it at a P.O. box. This is his This is my opponent's residency in the state of Kentucky.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm telling you, that's the kind of, and he was a nobody running against one of the most senior members of the Democrats in 1984, I think it was. Consider that approach, because that does irritate people in general. It irritates Texans in particular. Katrina Pierson, thanks for being with us. Katrina for Congress. KatrinaForCongress.com. I am Kevin Price. You're listening to The Price of Business.